Okay. Thinking as clearly as usual, since there's so much cooking to do. Facebook Live, you can't call me. I don't know how you deal with that. Okay, anyhow, thank you to everyone who came and for the people watching. So we're going to be learning from this book over here, which on Facebook is backwards. It's like a mirror here for some reason. Laman Achai V'Re'ah. So it's, you could say like it's Sichas of Reb Shlomo Carlebach. But really what it is, it's talks that he gave. He never ever organized his thoughts. He just kind of like had a stream of consciousness and they flowed out and eventually he somehow connected the concepts. And then there's a sweet guy who took it and translated it into Hebrew. And then I'm going to translate back into English. Not for Yael, but for everyone else. Or maybe I'll just read it in English. Okay, so it says in the Midrash that before Hashem created the world, he davened. But afterwards, when Hashem began to create the world, he created the world with the word Bereshit. And in the word Bereshit we have Bet. And that comes from Melashon Bracha. That's connected to Bracha, which is lesson. That is to say that the first thing that Hashem did after he davened, when Hashem made the world, was that he made a blessing. So, right, how does Hashem create the world? Hashem creates the world through speech. So when Hashem says that something will be, then it is. And then he went beyond speech and blessed what he created. Kach gam anachnu. So we also have the ability. After we finish davening on the first night of Rosh Hashana, we're quick to go and bless one another. And these blessings are really mamish the deepest. Because everybody understands that now when I'm blessing, for example, when I'm blessing my neighbor, or when I'm blessing a friend on Shabbos, then that's very special. But it doesn't even come close to when I'm blessing my wife, or my children, or my closest friends on Rosh Hashana, on the night of Rosh Hashana. So, welcome. So, at night on Rosh Hashana, everybody after davening, they go, they bless their friends, and he says, this is the deepest blessing. We're learning from Reb Shlomo.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
And
sorry, I just came to
no, it's fine. It's fine. No, rest, have some water. So it says, it's written, so what do we bless? Somebody we bless that you should be written in the book of life. Tichtavu b'sefer ha'chaim. You should be written in the book of life. When I'm davening, like when I'm davening on my own, then I daven that Hashem should do everything. Right? So I'm davening Shmona Esrei and I say, Hashem, I need this and I need that, and Hashem take care of everything. But when I'm giving somebody else a blessing, then I have the power to bless somebody else. Right? When I'm davening to Hashem, I'm saying, Hashem, bless me. But when I'm blessing somebody else, then all of a sudden, I have the power to bless someone else. Right? Because we're made in Hashem's image. And one of the meanings is that kind of what Hashem can do, we can do. So Hashem can create things with thought and speech. And in a sense, we can also create things with thought and speech. I think about, where's my shopping list? Let's go. Yeah, we'll go with the example of the shopping list. So this is the menu for 6 days, for 6 meals, and that's the shopping list. So this was originally a thought. And then the thought became action. And then this action will eventually become food that we're going to eat in order to celebrate the New Year and Shabbos. And that's how we take thought and speech, so I can sit here with my thoughts and my speech and turn it into something. So in that way we have the ability to do it. For example, even though a monkey might look like a human being, they can't sit here and give a lesson. They're not able to speak in the same way that we speak. Even dolphins have, from what I understand, a high level of intelligence, but their speaking is different than ours. In that way we're very similar to Hashem. And so also with blessing each other. So Hashem blesses us, and we have the ability to bless other people. And this came about through Avraham Avinu. Because Hashem said the first time to Avraham Avinu, I'm going to bless those that you bless. So whoever Avraham Avinu was going to bless would be blessed. And there's also a lot of Christians that this is where their support for Israel comes from. Where it says in the Akedah, at the end of the Akedah, that those who bless you will be blessed. And so these Christians that come here, for example, on Sukkot. So, during Chol HaMoed, there was one day during Chol HaMoed, all these sacrifices were brought, but there was one day that the 70 nations were allowed to come and bring their sacrifices. And that's the day on Chol HaMoed that the Christians have their parade. On Betzalel, they march to the Old City. That's why they do it on that day. Yeah. And what's their whole philosophy is that they understand that if you bless the Jewish people, you'll be blessed back. And supposedly that's all their intention is, although they hand out these flyers that say, believe in Jesus and have this candy and, all this crazy stuff. Hey, welcome. So this comes from Avraham Avinu. And Avraham Avinu had the ability to bless, and we also have the ability to bless. He says, our holy Rebbe says something mamish, great and exalted. On the first night of Rosh Hashana, I go to all of my friends, and I say, if I'm going to be written in the book of life, I'm going to tell Hashem that I don't agree to be sealed in the book of life until you're also sealed in the book of life. And I say to my wife and my children, if you're not sealed in the book of life, then I don't even want to be in this world. He says, on the first night of Rosh Hashana in the Moshav, Meor Modin, which is the Carlebach Moshav, he told all the Chevre that this is what they have to do. They have to go around and bless all their friends. And when I bless somebody on Rosh Hashana, I'm saying that I don't want to be in this world if you're not going to be here. So the blessings that we give after davening on the first night of Rosh Hashana, he said on the Moshav, it took 4 hours for them to finish blessing each other. And Reb Shlomo, he stood by the doorway in the Beit Midrash, and he was watching all the young people blessing each other. And he saw this one little boy, 5 years old, and he comes over to his father, and he says, I don't want to live in this world unless you're sealed in the book of life. He said, Mamish, Zaya Mamish Gevalt Ve'amok. This was like exalted, how do you say Gevalt? It was awesome and amazing and deep. So, friends, I'm telling you, and I'm begging you, that the deepest moment on Rosh Hashana is when you bless each other. So, I daven here.
Just make it for the end of Shul.
Make it to the end of Shul? It's not so hard. It's not, davening Rosh Hashanah is not so long. Davening Yom Kippur is a long one at night because there's tichot. In the davening Rosh Hashanah, it's pretty much standard Ma'ariv with an extra pasuk at the end, and that's it, so it goes quick. So I don't remember if we talked about it in the past before in Kiddush Levana. I think I did mention it. So Kiddush Levana, there's some funny things in Kiddush Levana. I always thought it was a funny thing to have a lulav and an etrog. I mean, this totally looks like idol worship to me. Here we are shaking it, and we're so careful with it. Just the strangest thing. In Kiddush Levana, you jump up and down. It's like Siman Tov and Mazel Tov, you jump up and down, and then David Melech Chai V'Kayam, you jump up and down, and then you have to go to three people and you have to say Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, and everybody in the davening. So they're with their siddur and they go Aleichem Shalom, Aleichem Shalom. And so Shlomo said he would get all the chavrei to stand in a circle. I remember mentioning this. All the chavrei to stand in a circle, and each person would stand in the middle and go around and say Shalom Aleichem, Shalom, and everyone would say Aleichem Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Aleichem Shalom, and go to every person, and then they'd switch off, and everybody would say Shalom Aleichem to each other. So now, what I do here in this shul, they daven out front there. I'm usually in another shul when we daven Kiddush Levana. Because Kiddush Levana oftentimes daven Motzi Shabbos. But then Motzi Shabbos or Motzi Yom Tov. So we'll always do Kiddush Levana after Yom Kippur, which is the killer. When you do Kiddush Levana after a fast, you're like, I just want to get home. I don't want to say Shalom Aleichem or jump up and down and do anything. Just want to go to sleep and eat some food. Also after Tisha B'Av, it's the same thing. Tisha B'Av is like the worst. At least Yom Kippur, you're flying from the davening. The Tisha B'Av is like such a depressing day. And then after, let's do Kiddush Levana. So I go to the person next to me and say, Shalom Aleichem, Lechem Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Lechem Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Lechem Shalom. I'm going to start walking around. I say Shalom Aleichem. Nobody knows because they don't know. They're all busy with the davening. They don't know that I was just saying over there and over there. And I go through the whole crowd, say Shalom Aleichem to everyone. And I have to tell you, it's fun, It makes everyone happy. Sometimes I just jump up and down in front of somebody. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, Kiddush Levana, Kiddush Levana. Yeah, it's a good place to be, Baruch Hashem. So I started doing that when I read this lesson. I remember how many years ago, 10 years ago. I started going around after davening, every person that I could find. You should have a good and sweet new year. And you can pretty much bless everyone with parnasa, with livelihood, with good health. If they're married, to have shalom bayit. If they're not married, that they should marry to get married. And they should have children. If they have children, to have healthy children, the patience to raise them, and the money that they need. And you just kind of go on and on, whatever that person needs. And all these things come out. And then, of course, they're excited, and they want to bless you back. Or you gave them like a gift, and they want to give it back to you. And it creates this really positive energy between people. Okay, so let's see over here. I'll talk about a couple more things, and then I have some stories. Where was this that I wanted to see over here? Okay, so he said there's another deep idea on Rosh Hashana. On Rosh Hashana, there's no words. When we blow the shofar, there's no words, because it's deeper than words. Our holy rabbis teach us that the words and the letters are part of the creation of the world. Before the creation, there weren't any words. Right? So the way that Hashem creates the world is through speaking. So if he was speaking, he was creating. And if he wasn't speaking, then the world didn't exist. So friends, that when I love somebody deeply, then there's between us signs. Because it's deeper than just words. Our relationship on Rosh Hashana is like before the creation of the world, where everything was still signs. On Rosh Hashana, when we blow the shofar, it's a sign between us and Hashem. When a father teaches his son how to walk, when he teaches his son, there's no words. But when a mother teaches her child, she's teaching with... I mixed this up here. When the father is teaching his son, or his child, he's teaching him with words. But when the mother is teaching, it's just with signs. There's nobody in the world who can understand the signs of their child better than their mother, which I can tell you from experience. Right, with a baby, there's usually three things: tired, hungry, or poo-poo. And I'm always trying to figure out, should I stick something in their mouth? Should I try to get them to sleep? Or do we change a diaper? Or what are we doing? And my wife always knows, no, this is what the baby needs. So I know with words, and she understands with the signs. On the night of Rosh Hashana, we give Hashem signs. We're passing between us and Hashem signs. How much we love each other and how much we want to be together, alive in this world. Imagine to yourself that you're on the subway, and all of a sudden you see this beautiful woman, and deep inside you know that she is your soulmate, and it seems to you that you've known her your whole life. You've known her since the beginning of time. Even before you start to speak with each other, you're already passing signs between each other. And you know that when the wedding comes, was that really the beginning? It wasn't because of the chuppah that I say to my kala, Hare at mekudeshet li, that you're betrothed unto me. But it started much longer before that. It started with those first few signs when we first met each other. And it's written explicitly in the Gemara that if a person wants to know, if I want to know how much I love a person, I have to check how well he understands my signs. During the whole year, our words and our actions, maybe they weren't the best. But in Rosh Hashana, I'm saying to Hashem, my signs were always good. Right? My actions weren't always good, but my signs were always good. The signs that I really want to be a Jew, that I really want to be a good person. You know that when Mashiach comes, he's going to blow the shofar, and the whole world is going to run and come to Mashiach. And Mashiach isn't going to give lengthy speeches. But when he comes, everybody in the world is suddenly going to understand each other's signs. Deep in my heart, it's clear to me that if only everybody could understand the signs of each other, then there wouldn't be any hatred in the world. Maybe words are able to create hatred, but the signs, they're always coming from the deepest place. Okay, so I'll share one more thought here, and then some stories, and some music and stories. Another very important thing, on the night of Rosh Hashana, the Chol Yamim HaKadoshim, and all the holy days, then it's the job, tafkido, lo, so we have to be careful not to say bad things to each other. If, for example, God forbid, somebody stole money, and there's a judgment in heaven against that person, and then somebody comes to you and says, what do you think about that thief? And you answer them, oh, they have to throw him in jail. So these words are literally a judgment on him, right? We had a whole lesson about this, that when you're judging other people, you're judging yourself, and to be careful of the words you said. So don't judge others. Our holy rabbis teach us that the most certain way to be on Rosh Hashana is not to judge and not to say bad things about others. Not on Rosh Hashana and not on Yom Kippur. And there was somebody who said, we're very worried about the 10 days of tshuva between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but we should be really worried about the days between Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, which is the whole rest of the year. Those 10 days we're so careful, but Vezat Hashem. I remember reading, I don't remember where it was, there was some rabbi who said, it's Pesach, it's time for me to start doing tshuva. And some other rabbi said, it's Yom Kippur, it's time for me to start doing tshuva for next Yom Kippur. So we can also do tshuva for Purim, if we didn't get to the highest place in Purim. So I hope that each of you will give strength to each other. It's important not to yell, God forbid, at your children on these holy days, which is sometimes not an easy thing to do, and not to yell at other people. Because, hey Yossi, welcome. Baruch Hashem. Because everything that we do is in all of the shouting that we would shout at our children is heard up above. You could say, okay, You've learned how to yell at your children. And all of Beseder, Lamanti Mimcha, okay, so they say upstairs, I learned from you how to yell at your children. And all the people in the world learned from you how to yell at your children. So I'm blessing you that you should agree to please give your children only kisses, and there should be between you just signs. Okay, so let's take a little musical break here. What do we have?
About giving brachot.
What's that?
Can I ask a question about
Yeah, please.
It's not considered like arrogant or godlike or something like
It is
take
godlike.
it upon you, but it's fine because I know people sometimes like go to a rabbi to get a blessing, but it's
No, you don't have to go
encouraged
to a
in
rabbi. You can go.
Everyone
You can
can
go
just-
to Yael, and you can go to anyone. Sure, because Hashem gave us the power to bless through Avraham Avinu. Right? When people say, "Oh, you know, my great grandfather was the whatever, some big rabbi, the Chafetz Chaim," I say, "Yeah, that's incredible. You know who my great grandfather was? Avraham Avinu. I have a real yichus. Avraham Avinu. Hi, Yossi. Thanks for joining us.
So it's not like who am I to
Unfortunately, I
bless
have to prepare for Chag.
It's good. We're also
Did
preparing
you
for
see
Chag.
what do you call it?
What?
Did you see the thing I sent out? Email?
No, I'll see you later.
And enjoy the
you?
graphic.
I'm busy giving us a deal.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, sei gesund. So, for sure.
It's not presumptuous. It's not like who am I to bless you.
No, on the contrary, it's really caring about somebody. You know, when I say, Yael, I bless you, you should get married this year, and you should have good parnasa, and menuchat nefesh, peace of mind, and all of the things you need, then I'm saying it from a place of love, and I'm blessing you, really.
I'm accepting it.
And Reb Shlomo would always say, I'm blessing you and bless me back. You know? We all want to bless each other. Nothing bad is going to come out of it, for sure. So maybe we're not tzaddikim and Hashem is going to listen, or maybe on the contrary, Hashem is going to say, oh, you're such simple yidden, I'm going to listen to your prayer. There's all these stories about the Baal Shem Tov addressing simple Jews, and the big rabbi is getting angry. And the Baal Shem Tov, however he had his ability, would put his hand on somebody, and they would all of a sudden hear this beautiful singing and this incredible harmony. And it would be these simple Jews that are sitting there and reciting Tehillim by heart. So, if you don't know anything, and you're still coming to shul, and you're still saying Tehillim, you can't even really read, but you memorized 3 verses of Tehillim, and you say it all the time, that's precious in Hashem's eyes. And our blessings are also precious in Hashem's eyes. He says, okay, Barak, he did all these things wrong, and he wasn't the greatest person here and wasn't there, but look at how much he loves this person that he's talking to. So maybe I should listen to him. And if nothing, just on a personal level, the person appreciates you blessing them. So it's not presumptuous at all. Rosh Hashana, we're being judged. It's being decided what's going to be in the next year. I was learning a Sikha, I think it was a Sikha Maima, I don't know which one it was, of the Rebbe Rashab, I think it was. There's the story. Do you want to close the door, Maima, or do you don't mind? Whatever you like. Okay. And he was talking about Rosh Hashana, how basically Rosh Hashana, everything, there's like a budget for the year. Everyone's given their personal budget of what's going to come down. It is kind of like sitting in the clouds, waiting up there, little packages. Every day your package is coming down. It's being opened up, and that's what you're getting for the day. Sometimes you'll get a few packages will be held for you, and they'll come down in one shot, so you've got a period, you're like, what's going on? Things are not working out in my life, and all of a sudden, boom, just it comes and you get it all. Whatever it is, whatever is allotted for that year, you're going to get in one way or another. It might even come like the last day, tomorrow afternoon, it could all come to you. And by the time we get here to shul tomorrow night, that's it. Whatever you had that year is what Hashem meant for you to have. But this was the Rebbe Rashab, I'm pretty sure. He was, I think, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he was saying, and this is a known thing, that what's decided on Rosh Hashana is decided on Rosh Hashana, but you can change it through davening. So let's say that you are meant to, I'll just make it simple with money. You were supposed to get $30,000 this year, and you already got $30,000, and it's halfway through the year. You're like, Hashem, nothing's coming, what am I going to do? And you're davening, and all of a sudden you get a little more money, and before you get to the end of the year. So whatever was decided, and that's all you were going to get. But you can bring down more shefa, more abundance through your davening. So we don't have to feel like Rosh Hashanah, that's it. You know, we're done, there's nothing we can do, we don't have any choice about it at all. You can always daven, you can always turn the decrees through davening. So there's the story that the Rishner Rebbe would tell. I guess after this we'll have to play the Rishner Nigun. He would tell the story about Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev. L'Hashem orech din, lekoneh avada bedin, lerachem amo biyom din. So this is from, I'm guessing this is from, let's see, where does it say here? It says this is from the davening. So Hashem like arranges the judgment, and he acquires his servants through judgment, and he has compassion on the Jewish people through judgment. But you could say orech din is also a word, is the name of a lawyer. So you could say that Hashem has somebody who's defending the Jewish people, who's up there and basically being our lawyer. And he acquires his servants through judgment and has compassion. Okay, so the Rishner would tell this story on Rosh Hashana. And so everybody knows that the Jewish people have one good friend, Eliyahu Navi, right? And he always comes. Sometimes disguises this person, sometimes disguises that, right? Sometimes it's you and sometimes it's me. I don't know if I told that story yet. But sometimes I'm Eliyahu Navi, and sometimes you're Eliyahu Navi, and sometimes Eliyahu Navi is Eliyahu Navi. So you might not even realize it, right? For somebody else, you could be Eliyahu Navi. Since, I guess I'll tell the stories. So we once built a sukkah out here, and there's a porch in front of the windows here. And we always had a Kiddush on Shabbos, and then it would come Shabbos Chol HaMoed, and we didn't have a Kiddush. So I said to the rabbi, okay, I'm going to build the sukkah. So I announced in shul, anyone wants to donate money. There's a guy, he had a business, he never had any money, and all of a sudden he made a ton of money. And now like he's like practically a billionaire. It's so crazy. I remember he came to me in shul and he said, what am I going to do? I can't pay my bills. I can't buy milk for my kids. No. He's literally has so much money. He tells me about his golf score in Caesarea, which is a little strange. So he comes, he gives me a check, and he says, here you go, this should pay for all the material. So I measured the space out there, kind of like I did my menu. And I'm like making this and that, and like, okay, I need 4 meters here and 3 meters there. and I go to the store near the shuk and I buy all this schach. Right, I've got like these huge bags of schach and all this wood, and me and the guy in the store were calculating everything. And then I take it out of the store, and this was before the train, so it was on Yaffa Street. And I'm standing there, and I thought, okay, I'll carry it over. But I didn't realize how much it was going to be. And it would have taken me hours to carry it over. And I couldn't put it on a taxi, it was too much. So I'm standing there trying to figure out what to do. And there's a couple lives over here, the Silberg family, the Leora and Alon Silberg, they daven here. And they have, Bli Ayin Hara, 11 kids. And they have like a huge van. It's like the size of these two tables together. So she comes pulling up on Yaffa Street. And she rolls down her window and says, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "What? What are you doing on Yaffa Street with all this stuff? Why are you here? Quick!" She pops the trunk open, like the back open. It pops up. "Throw the stuff in. Come on, I got 5 minutes to get home." So she lives right here next to the shul. So I'm like quickly stuffing the stuff in the back of the van. And I jump in front, and she takes off like crazy, comes up the street, stops over there in front of the door, opens the back, says, "Get out, I gotta get home." I'm like pulling this stuff out of the van, and then she's gone. And I'm standing there, it was 10 minutes ago, I was trying to figure out how am I going to get all this stuff to the shul, and it's here. So now I said, okay, who's going to volunteer? And like all these people, we're going to come, we're going to help you, right? Nobody showed up. No one's there. It was like 20 people said that they were going to come. So, okay, I schlepped the stuff into the porch over here, and I started unpacking the wood, and I'm not in construction, like, I don't know how to do this stuff. So I'm like trying to drill this here and drill that there and try to get it to stand up. And this guy shows up, and he says, "Hey, I heard you're building a sukkah." And I said, "Yeah." And like, we were speaking in English, like one of the chevre from the shul. And there's lots of people, I don't know them. All the time I see people on the street, and literally on the walk over here, 3 people said hi to me that I don't know. They probably know me from the davening, so I'm always careful to say hi, so that they're not upset at me, because it happened once that I didn't say hi to somebody. He's like, "You're the worst chazan in the world. I saw you on the street, you don't even say hi to me." Like, okay, learned that lesson. So I thought it was one of these guys. He shows up, and he says, "Let's go, I'm here to build a sukkah." I said, "Where do you live?" He said, "He lives in Musara," which is, Musara is near the city hall. And he said, "We don't have a sukkah. I live in an apartment, and I heard you have a sukkah. Can I use the sukkah during Hullman?" And I said, "Sure, the door's going to be open. And, all the more so that you've been helping me." And for like 6 hours, we built the sukkah together. First we built it, we put the schach, and the whole thing collapsed. Yeah. So we started again, and then we figured it out. And I said to him, "You're like Eliyahu Navi." And he's like, "Get out of here." And he was calling his friends, and his friends were like Avram, Sarah, and Yitzchak. And I'm like, "Are you joking? Is this a joke?" He said, "Okay, first of all, teach me some Torah. I got to learn Torah from Eliyahu Navi." He's like, "What are you talking about? I'm not Eliyahu Navi. I'm just like a normal guy." I said, "Okay, fine, just give me a bracha." I used to get a bracha from Eliyahu Navi. And it didn't teach me anything, didn't give me a bracha. It was just like, focused on the building. And he said, "I'm coming here for the Kiddush on Shabbos. I'm going to bring a bottle of whiskey. And I'm going to bring all my friends." And he's like calling his friends, right? When he calls Avram, he says, "You got to come and see the sukkah. The sukkah is awesome." Never saw the guy again the rest of my life, up until now. And this was, I don't know how many years ago, 10 years ago. I'm sure it was Eliyahu Navi that had come to help me build the sukkah. So, since I'm telling this story, I'll tell the other part of the story. So, and I'm not sure if I told it here before. I'm trying to keep track of all the stories I tell. If I tell a story again, just tell me. So once this guy comes to the Baal Shem Tov, one of the Hasidim of the Baal Shem Tov, and he says, "I want to meet Eliyahu Navi." And this was for Pesach. And so he says to him, I guess it could also be for Sukkot, but Pesach he wanted to see Eliyahu Navi at the Seder. So the Baal Shem Tov says, "You're going to see Eliyahu Navi. Here's what you do. Fill up the wagon with all this food, clothes, candles, all this stuff. And you're going to head out to this town, and at the end of the town is this really poor family, and they live in a broken down house, and you're going to tell them you spend the Seder with them, and I promise you're going to see Eliyahu Navi." So he goes there, and he's really excited, and knocks on the door, and says, "The Baal Shem Tov sent me." And they said, "We'd love to have you, but we don't have any money, we don't have any food." He's like, "Look at the wagon. I got everything here, you're set." So they're really happy, and the kids have clothes, and everybody has food, and everything's great, and he has 2 seders. Right here we only do 1, but there are 2 seders. And he's waiting, sitting at the table, waiting for the Navi, looking at the door, looking everywhere. Nobody walks in. So Chol HaMoed jumps on the wagon, goes back to the Baal Shem Tov. He says, Holy Rebbe, I did everything you said, and I sat there and I was looking everywhere and I didn't see Eliyahu Navi. And the Baal Shem Tov said, no, you didn't have your eyes open. I'm going to tell you what to do. Get the provisions again, the food and everything, and you're going to go back there for the last 2 days of Yom Tov, and I promise you you're going to see Eliyahu Navi. So he gets there with the wagon. Yeah, I'll see the vision after this. He gets there. Oh, I didn't tell the story. Wait, I didn't tell the story yet. So he gets there with the wagon, and he hears the kids are screaming and they're crying, like, Ima, mama, in Yiddish probably. What are we going to do? We don't have any food. What are we going to do for the last 2 days of Yom Tov? And the mother says, children, just like Eliyahu Navi came the first time, I promise he'll come again. And then he realized that he was Eliyahu Navi. For that family, he was Eliyahu Navi. So sometimes I'm Eliyahu Navi, and sometimes you're Eliyahu Navi. Right? And we know it. We've all experienced it. Where somebody comes and said, your mamish saved my life. And it might be the smallest thing. So now we've talked many times about Sholom Brodt, who passed away. And what I'm doing personally is I'm trying to think, what are the things that he did that I can pick up and do as well? So one of the things that I'm doing is calling people on Friday. Just started this last Friday. I started a little list. I'm calling people. I just say, calling you to wish you a good Shabbos. And these are people that probably nobody's calling them to wish them a good Shabbos. And he had a thing about being present at events. He would show up sometimes for 2 minutes. Like somebody has a vort, he'd show up, we'd say Mazel Tov, and then he'd be out of there. So I'm trying to do that. I'm not as good as he got to be. He would travel everywhere. It's quite amazing. But when you show up at somebody's event, you show up at a kiddush, you show up at a bris, you show up at a wedding, whatever it is, it might seem like nothing, but for that person, it could mean so much. I remember when we had our first son, so we had a Sholom Zachar, and it was obviously the first Sholom Zachar I'd had. And so he was number 4. We had 5 kids in 7 or 8 years, so the kids came really close. Baruch Hashem. And this Sholom Zachar went to 4 in the morning. And people were just constantly pouring into the house, people I didn't know, and people that I did know. And there were people that I barely knew. I just saw their face, and they showed up with a friend. They said, I heard you having a Sholom Zachar. And the truth is, it meant so much to me just to see their face. And also when I had the bris, both the britot, that's how you say it, britot, brisin, I don't know how you would say it, brisot. So all these people showed up, and everybody's busy. They just came, grab a bagel, and get out of there. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm holding this baby, and we're going to give him a minor surgery, and it's really intense. You're trying to figure out what's going on. But every face that I saw was oh wow, thank you for coming, and thank you for coming, and thank you for coming. So even just such a small thing like that, which seems totally meaningless, you're really there just for the bagels, or say Mazel Tov and then get to the bagels. But just the fact that you're there made a difference for the person. So all the more so when you actually do something more significant for somebody, give them 20 shekels when they say I don't have any money, or pat them in the back, give them some words of encouragement, whatever it is. That's how we're Eliyahu Navi. So the story of Reb Levi Yitzchak. Okay, so one year, this is the story that the Rishner would tell. One year, Reb Levi Yitzchak. I shouldn't bring in Reb Levi Yitzchak yet. So why Reb Levi Yitzchak? Because he always judged everyone positively. Just like Reb Shlomo was saying before, that we have to be careful in Rosh Hashana to judge people positively. Reb Levi Yitzchak was judging people positively all year round. One of the well-known stories, which I've told before, it's Tisha B'Av, and he sees this guy smoking, and he's eating a ham sandwich or whatever it was, and Reb Levi Yitzchak knows that he's Jewish and he was once part of the community, and he goes over to this guy and he says, "Holy brother, it's Tisha B'Av, it's a fast day." And he says, "Yeah, I know." He So that's why I'm eating. And he's like, and you're also not supposed to smoke on Tisha B'Av. And he's like, here you go, Rabbi, that's for you. And he said, Hashem can forgive you for all the transgressions that you did. You just have to do tshuva. And he's like, I'm not interested in doing tshuva. So how does Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev judge this person positively? He turns his eyes up to heaven and he says, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world, you see, I gave this Jew 3 chances to lie, and every time he told me the truth. So that's an example of Reb Levi Yitzchak, who himself had a difficult life. Hasidim in the early years, they weren't accepted by the Jewish community. They were physically beaten up and kicked out of communities. And wherever Reb Levi Yitzchak became a rabbi, at least for many years, I guess until he got to Berditchev, he was physically kicked out of the town. So he didn't last very long. He was constantly going around. Nobody appreciated him. So Reb Levi Yitzchak passes away, like the fate of everyone eventually. And one year, there's this horrible decree on the Jewish people. Whatever it was, we've seen horrible decrees. We know what a horrible decree looks like on the Jewish people. And so the angel Michael, he brings out all of the good deeds the Jewish people did, and the Satan brings out all of the bad things the Jewish people did, and they put it on the scales, and the bad deeds totally outweigh the good deeds. And the judgment upstairs in the Beit Din, they're about to finally give the judgment for the year, what's going to be for the Jewish people, and they notice that all of the bad deeds of the Jewish people are gone. And everyone's looking around, they're trying to figure out what happened. There's just the side of the mitzvot and the good things that the Jewish people did, and nothing left on the other side. So the Satan says, what's the deal? I brought in all this stuff, came in with industrial-sized cargo ships and tow trucks and the whole thing, and it's all gone. Where is it? And somebody says, Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev stole them. He stole all the mitzvahs. So they found the neshama of Reb Levi Yitzchak Berditchev, and they say to him, you're a thief. You stole all the transgressions of the Jewish people. How are you going to pay it back? Can you pay it back yourself? And he said, no, of course not. I don't have so many transgressions. I can't pay them all back. But they're mine, and I'm not giving them back. I'm going to remain a thief. So what happens with a thief who's caught and can't pay back, right? This is in the Gemara. What happens if a thief steals a cow, and then he chops up the cow, and, he gets it shechted, and it's chopped up and sold in the marketplace, and then it's discovered that he stole it, but he spent all the money. Can't return the cow, and he doesn't have the money. So what happens? He's sold into slavery to repay the debt. So they said that's what Reb Levi Yitzchak has to do. He's going to be sold into slavery. And they say, who's going to buy Reb Levi Yitzchak? And a voice comes out from heaven, and Hashem says, I'm going to buy Reb Levi Yitzchak. He's going to be my servant. And that's what we started off with here. That the judgment is arranged, the Hashem orech din, the koneh avadav bedin, the rachem amo b'yom din. So, the judgment is arranged, and that's where Levi Yitzchak stole the judgment. And then Hashem acquired his servant, the koneh avadav bedin, and that's how he has compassion on the Jewish people through judgment. So we have Reb Levi Yitzchak upstairs looking out for us. So let's sing the Rishon Nigun, and then a couple stories, and we'll be finished until next year. Ay, 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 Okay. Where is my list of stories? Here we go. So the Ben Ish Chai, he was the rabbi of the Jewish community in Baghdad, and I don't know when he died. Oh, welcome back, Yossi. It was in I remember something about the 1901 or something around then. So let's say the beginning of the 20th century in Iraq. And still there was a serious Jewish community there at the time. My wife's grandfather is from Baghdad. Both of her mother's parents were from Baghdad. Her mother, I think, was the first female lawyer in Baghdad. There's the Jews for you. And her father, grandmother. And her grandfather was a farmer. And farming at the time was like high tech. You know, everybody wanted a farm because you had food and you had extra and you could sell it. That's how it went. At one point it was farming, and then it was factories, and it changed over the years. So he was a farmer, and he realized that the anti-Semitism, he saw, I think he left in 1936, he saw there was anti-Semitism, and he actually walked, I think it took him 6 or 8 months to get here, hitchhiking on camels and wagons, and I don't know how you get from Baghdad to Jerusalem, but he came here on his own when he was like 16 or 17 years old. So when the Ben Ish Chai was the rabbi of the community, it was like a serious Jewish community. It was a wealthy community. It was well established. There was a secular Arabic Jewish culture. And the stories that the Ben Ish Chai gave all these parables. And the parables that he gave, you can tell that they were really for kind of simple Jews. I'm imagining the majority of the Jewish community in Baghdad wasn't very highly educated Jewishly. Maybe it's just a guess, I don't know, from the stories he tells. So there's 2 parables I'm thinking of. One is this wealthy man, and he's on a horse, and he's riding into Baghdad. And on the road to Baghdad, right on the dirt road, he sees this beggar with no legs sitting on the side of the street. There's actually a beggar now in the shuk with no legs. I have such compassion for this guy. Some of the beggars, I wonder if I'm actually giving them tzedakah, but this guy, poor guy, I don't know what happened to him. So here, this wealthy man, he's on a horse, and he sees this beggar, he's got no legs, and the beggar stops him, and he says, please put me on your horse. I can't get back into town. I'm stuck here on the street. Please help me out. So the wealthy man says, no problem. He picks him up, he puts him in front, and he sits behind him so that the guy won't fall over, and they're riding into town. They get into town, and as soon as they get to where the judges are by the city gates, the poor man shouts out, this wealthy man stole my horse. He doesn't have enough money. Look at me, I'm poor, I have no legs, and he stole my horse. And the judges are like, what? This is absurd. And they pull the wealthy man down, and they put him in handcuffs, and they bring them to the court, and the wealthy man says, what are you talking about? I was doing an act of kindness for this guy. And they're like, kindness? You stole his horse. What kind of kindness is that? And he said, prove it. And they said, the proof is that he was sitting in front. If you were the owner of the horse, he would sit behind you and hold on to you. But since he was sitting in front and you were holding on to him, clearly he's the owner of the horse. So this is a parable, right? And the parable is that when you put your Yetzer Hara in front, then you let him be in charge and you let him decide. But if the Yetzer Hara is behind you, then he might have some influence over you, but at least you're the one who's in charge. That's one parable. Another parable, these are the parables that he gave. So you can see, even this whole imagery, just to give over that idea of somebody on the road with no legs and the horse and the whole thing. It's not even our world. We can't relate to it. So there's another parable that there were 2 thieves. Of course, the king, he has his treasury, and both thieves, one day they come up with the same idea. We can dig a tunnel. Right now you know where Hamas gets their ideas from. Everything is based on the Jews. Even Hamas and their tunnels. So these 2 thieves, they said, okay, we're going to dig a tunnel, and we're going to get to the treasury, and come up underneath, and steal a bunch of money and treasure, and then come out the tunnel. And it happens that they both go on the same night in different directions. And they're digging, and finally they get to the treasury, and one of them clearly went through the floor and rearranged some of the stuff in the treasury, and the other one had reached the spot where the treasury was, but then went back out. So now neither of the thieves were caught, and nothing was stolen. But they discovered the tunnels, and the king wanted to know who were the thieves. I want the thieves brought before me, and I want to know what happened, because for him it was a mystery. Right? And for us it's also a mystery. At least for you at this point. So, however they did it back then, interrogation and asking around and bribing and whatever it was, they found the two thieves. And they're brought before the king. And the first one is the one that made it all the way to the treasury but didn't break through the floor. And so the king said to him, "What's your story? I mean, I'm not going to cause any problems for you. You didn't steal anything, so no problem. Just tell me, why did you dig all the way there and not take anything? You didn't even go into the treasury." He said, "Because I got there and I'm looking at the floor and I'm saying I could break through, but my God, if I get caught, you're going to behead me. So I was scared to death and I left." I said, "Okay, fair enough." They bring in the other one, and the king says, "No, what's your story? You broke through the floor and clearly took a bunch of stuff and then put it all down and you left. What kind of thief are you?" And he said, "Your Highness, I broke through the floor and I took all this stuff and I said, God, I'm so happy I did it. I'm going to be rich." And then I said, "But wait, I love the king. You're such a great king. I mean, you treat us well and we live in this beautiful kingdom and you protect us." He said, "I can't do this to the king." And he put it back. So this is a parable for tshuva me'yira and tshuva me'ahava. Coming back to Hashem from a place of fear and coming back to Hashem from a place of love. So when we say to Hashem, "Boy, I did all these things wrong and I'm really scared of the punishment that you might give me in the coming year or in the world to come," that's a good thing because you're doing tshuva. You're coming back to Hashem. But when you come back to Hashem and you say, "I'm doing it from a place of love," you say, Hashem, when things are going well between us, I really feel a connection. I really feel connected to you. I feel this warmth. I feel this love. And I don't want to do something that's going to break that again. And that's tshuva me'ahava. That's returning from love. Okay, since we only have...
Which one is the higher level? Or?
The higher level is from love.
And I heard that if you're doing it out of love, then your transgressions are actually changed over into mitzvah.
Also from yira. So there's, I think it's when it's an intentional transgression is turned into an unintentional transgression, and when it's unintentional, it's turned into a mitzvah. So it's like a crazy concept, right? One of the examples that Reb Sholom would give is he would say, let's say you have a rope. The sukkah that we build the sukkah in our courtyard. Imagine this is the courtyard. It's much smaller. I would tie a rope zigzag across my porch and my neighbor's porch, and in the courtyard, I would just roll out the schach over the rope. So one year I found that you're not allowed to use rope, so now I have wood beams. But back then I was using rope, and he said to me, this was like one of the things that Reb Sholom liked to do. He would use a personal example to explain it to you personally, so you would understand it. So he said, Barak, you were a Boy Scout. He always liked to say, you were a Boy Scout, I was an Eagle Scout. So he said, do you know how to tie knots? What happens if that rope breaks? What do you do? So he said, yeah, I know how to tie the knot. It's a bowline knot. And he said, and where is the strongest place in the rope right now? The strongest place in the rope is where you tied the knot. The rope is never going to break where you tied the knot. It'll fray in other places, but it won't break the knot could come undone. But the rope won't tear there because it's got all these layers of rope. And he said, and what happened to the two ends that had been cut? He said, now they're closer together than they ever were before. And that's tshuva. That's tshuva me'ahava. So the connection between you and Hashem, it got cut. You tied it back together, and now it's the strongest point. But also, it's closer now than it was before. So I see we only have a few minutes left. Baruch Hashem, I didn't even know what I was going to talk about tonight. I feel like today at Mincha, which was at 6:30, I said to my kids, okay, I got to go to shul and figure out what am I going to talk about tonight. So Hashem helped me out, and you guys helped me out. So
that story has to end up on Facebook, by the way.
It's all on Facebook.
No, in your running series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which story?
One you just told, but not.
Oh, really?
That's
So,
all.
okay. You're talking about that. Okay, Bezrat Hashem for Sukkot. There you go. I'll tell you just a quick story. So this is a story that I mentioned last week that I didn't have a chance to tell. It's a Rebbe Nachman parable, what do they call it? A parable? I don't remember. Additional story. It's called the story of Emunah. You probably know the story, but can't tell enough times. So there once was a guy who made his living by digging mud and putting it into these molds, letting it dry, and selling bricks in the marketplace. You can't make a lot of money from this, but he made enough to buy some food. Back then, you didn't have to worry about property tax. You build yourself a little shack, and that's where you lived. You just needed some food and whatever, small expenses you had. So it was enough for him and his family to get by. And one day he's digging, and he finds a rock. And it's not the first time. Many times he found rocks, but this was a really big rock. And he digs around it in the mud, and he pulls it out, and he pours some water on it, and it starts to sparkle. It's not a diamond, it's a gemstone. Some type of special gemstone. And it's like enormous. It's like a basketball. And he puts it on his wagon, and he brings it back home, and he says to his wife, come outside, you got to see this, we're rich. She's like, unbelievable. What do we do now? We can't eat that. We got to turn it into money, or we don't have anything. He's like, you're right, let's go to the jeweler. So he goes to the local jeweler, and the jeweler looks at this and says, whoa, first of all, I can't do anything with this. And even if I could, I wouldn't know how much it's worth, and I wouldn't have the money to pay you. You're going to have to go to London. It's only in London, sometimes it says Amsterdam, sometimes London, only in London where they would have the money and the skills to appraise this and give you what it's worth. So he says, no problem. He goes down to the port. He tells his wife, I'm going to London. She says, have a safe trip. He gets to the port. So drink a little water. And he goes to the captain. Of course, he has no money. He's dressed in rags. He's dirty. He shows the captain this huge gemstone. And he says, just so you know, I look like this because I was working in the field. But I'm actually a very wealthy man. Just look at this gemstone. I'm on my way to London, and when I sell it, I'll pay you for the passage. And the captain says, it'd be my greatest honor to have you on my boat. A wealthy businessman like you. You can have the finest cabin, and everything will be taken care of. You'll pay me when we get to London. So every day, he had his kosher food served to him in the first-class cabin, and he'd sit there with this huge, huge stone on the table and admire it, and everything was going well. And one day he's taking a little nap after eating lunch, and he wakes up and he sees the stone is gone. And he realizes that the servants, the waiters had come in, and they just wrapped up everything and put it out the port window, and the stone is gone. Now there he is, stuck in the middle of nowhere on the ocean, on his way to London. He realizes that if the captain doesn't kill him, at least he's going to be stranded in London for the rest of his life, and he's never going to see his wife and kids again. And he's trying to figure out what to do, and he's about to panic. And he says, wait a minute, Hashem took me here. Everything is for the best. I'm going to accept this with love, and I'm going to be happy, because if the captain sees that I'm depressed, he'll figure out what's going on, and he'll kill me. But if I'm happy, then maybe there's a chance that things will work out differently. And so he remained happy, and they served him his food every day, and he'd go for walks on the deck with the captain, and they talk about sophisticated things that business people talk about. And they were getting closer to London, and the captain says to him, listen, my friend, you and I become really close on this trip, and I know you're a very good businessman. I saw the stone that you're bringing to London, and I bought a lot of wheat when we were back in the port in Poland, and there's been a famine here in London, and wheat is worth a fortune. But I've done this already enough times, and it caught me in what's it called? Meches, customs, thank you. They caught me in customs, But you've never been to London before, so if I put all of it in your name, you bring it through, you sell it for me, and you pay me, and I'll give you 10%. How's that sound? He's like, that's a great deal. Because he knows at least he can get back home, and he's like feeling a sense of relief, and everything's much better than it was before. And now, before he was kind of faking it till he made it. Now he made it. So everything's good already. And they get to the port, and he sells the wheat, and he comes back to the ship, and he finds the captain died. The captain had a heart attack and died. And the wheat was his. All this money was his. And it was worth much more than the gemstone ever was worth. And so Rabbi Nachman says, why did he merit to have this great wealth? It wasn't because of the gemstone. It was because he remained faithful to Hashem. He had his faith in Hashem. He had his amun in Hashem. And he always stayed happy, no matter what. Had he not had his faith and remained happy, he wouldn't have merited the great fortune that was coming his way. So whatever Hashem gives us in this coming year, and it should only be good and reveal good. Hopefully we'll keep the story in mind and be happy and have faith in Hashem, and good things will come our way. Bezrat Hashem. Okay, one last nigla, and then we're...
And then Google sent him $8,000. Everyone, thank you very much for coming. Only revealed good, Bezrat Hashem. And thank you to my Facebook friends for watching as well.